It's 2 p.m. Detroit, and you know what that means. Detroit media icon Ryan Ermanni, University of Michigan great Braylon Edwards, and of course, Maz are about to take over on Woodward Sports. Every day, 2 to 4 p.m., it's the best Detroit sports talk on Detroit's best sports network.
Welcome in Woodward Sports. We are live here at Edgewood Country Club out in Commerce Township for the Tee Off for a Kid Again tournament. Some amazing stuff that they're doing today for children that really have not had an opportunity through sickness or some other issue where they get to be a kid again. They put together these adventures for them, and so there's a lot of celebrities out here today. Woodward team is out here today. We got Braylon Edwards out on the course.
It's the Anson Wells show.
Right now it is. We've had some technical difficulties out here. Ryan Ermanni is seated to my left. This is the Ermanni and Edwards show.
No, it's the Anson Wells show. So
it is definitely Anson Wells
I am not Braylon, as you guys know, but welcome in. We apologize for the late start, but we appreciate you guys all joining us. We should be able to get all these cameras up to date real quick. But
here's the deal. I'll fill everybody in. So again, as Anson said, and the camera's only on you, so I apologize, Anson. We're at Edgewood Country Club in Commerce. It is the Tee Off for a Kid Again. It provides never thought possible adventures for families raising children with life-threatening conditions.
Let me just hold that.
And we're proud to be here for it. We've had some technical problems because as somebody came through the area we were broadcasting, a couple of cords were kicked, and we've been trying to get back up. Then we're able to get back up, and we're only able to get one of the cameras working right now, which is exclusively on Anson Wells.
You're stuck with me, guys.
So this is a good time for Maz to come over here and bring the meatballs, perhaps.
There you go. Well, we got plenty to talk about sports-wise.
Oh, my. Oh,
wow. That plate does look amazing.
You get a meatball. Just a meatball?
So anyway, there's a lot to talk about in Detroit sports right now. I'm good for a minute there, pal. I appreciate you. But
you know me, I can't wait.
Tigers are in first place in the MLB right now throughout the league. A lot of trade talk right now with the Detroit Pistons. A lot of preparation for the Detroit Lions. And we've got the draft today. We got the NFL lottery, the lottery for the NBA draft today. And, in fact, we got a trip back in time courtesy of Tom Mazaway back to the first ever NBA lottery in which the head of the lottery, unbeknownst to David Stern at the time, had a deep relationship with the Knicks. And there's a lot of lore that they froze the envelope. So when David Stern stuck his hand in there, he could feel the cold envelope. And as we all know, that first envelope turned into Patrick Ewing.
NBA draft lottery is the most crooked thing in sports.
Big time.
I really believe that.
Big time.
The absolute most crooked thing in sports is the NBA draft lottery. I think they favor teams. I think that – you think the NHL is worse? Why do you say that?
Nobody watches it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Maz has said 4 or 5 years of the New York area teams have gotten on. Just people can't hear.
Yeah.
And Chicago, apparently.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, and listen, Maz has been hating this for months, but Cooper Flagg is going to San Antonio. 6% chance it doesn't matter because it is fixed. And for some reason, the NBA loves the Riverwalk. They love San Antonio. They love crazy-ass Popovich. And I think that they are going to recreate the Twin Towers. Twin Towers 2.0 is happening tonight.
Maybe that's – I wonder why, though. What is it about San Antonio? I mean, Tim Duncan, David Robinson,
Victor Wembanyama.
I mean, I just don't understand why San Antonio – thanks, Tom Masway.
I don't
understand why San Antonio is a spot that – is it because otherwise they wouldn't survive as a franchise?
I really don't understand what it was. I mean, obviously they hit with David Robinson in '87. He had 2 years where he stayed in the Navy, finished out his tour, and came to the NBA in '89. Now, he was a force on a terrible team throughout the '90s, and then '97 they give him Tim Duncan. And after that point, the NBA has just seemed to love this team, a team that only wins in odd-numbered years, but they've got 5 championships right now. And so I really don't get it. It's a fun little town. The Riverwalk is nice, but when you think about the the royalty of the NBA. Up until the last 15 years, there was only a handful of teams that had won it over 30 years. And it seemed like they picked San Antonio and said, hey, we're going to keep you in the good graces and the luck when it comes to the lottery and the draft. And I just think that that's going to continue tonight.
All right, fair enough. All right, Anson Wells, let's do this. We have an entire 2-hour show that we've got a rundown for and thoughts on for the next 40 minutes. Let's run through this.
Okay.
Kind of an accelerated Ermanni Edwards with Maz and Anson Wells.
Fast track.
And it's not super fast, but let's just go through some of the big stories that are happening today.
Yep.
Tigers lose 2 or 3 in their series with the Rangers. They lost the first home series of the year that they've played in. Is there any concern whatsoever that you have for the Detroit Tigers, or is this just long season, ebbs and flows are going to happen, but are they coming back to earth a little bit?
I mean, personally, I didn't think that this roster was capable of leading the AL, being the best team and arguably the best team in the majors. So I do think that there's a little bit of negative regression ahead of them, but they're also not fully healthy, and they're going to continue to get healthier. They might get some guys that come up from the minors, but I do think that this team they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline. So, hey, it's baseball. You can't win them all, but this team is so strong offensively, but they have the best pitching in MLB. And not only does that serve you well during the regular season, but it's going to take very good care of them once they get to the playoffs.
I have no concern really about this. Look, I think Casey Mize on the 15-day injured list, and that's a concern, but I do think they are strong enough in the pitching rotation where they can withstand an injury like that. It's nothing major. It's nothing that's going to be out for a number of months or anything like that. I do think that, they are going to have some stretches this season where they're, not going to get the timely hits, where Zach McKinstry is not going to come through for you, where Trey Sweeney is not going to come through for you, where Dylan Dingler is not going to come through for you. And, outside of that, they are going to run into some rough patches, but I still feel very good about this team. And going into the Boston Red Sox series, too, and I hate the fact that the Red Sox, thankfully we're going to have some pretty decent weather, I feel, but, it's not even mid-May yet. I guess it's close to mid-May, but you got the Yankees and the Red Sox already out of here, But Red Sox series, this is going to set up to be a big one. And you've got the kid, Jackson Jobe, going tonight. Maz will be there. With Maz there, it's big league stuff.
And really what we're seeing is a team that's been a surprise this season. Obviously, they finished with all the momentum and surprised us all getting into the playoffs. But now they have to prove it against the elite teams of the American League. But what we're not seeing from this team is youthful mistakes. We're not seeing them overwhelmed by the moment. They went out to Dodgerville in the very first series of the season, and although they lost that series and got swept, they were in every single game. They didn't look like the moment was too big for them. So I love what they've been able to do against some of the power teams in the American League, and I want to just see more of that. I want to see more of those matchups where we stack with the Bo Sox and with the Yankees and some of the other power teams in the American League.
I'm going to get to the Lions in a second. I want to move to the Pistons now because there was a report today from Shams Charania of ESPN, their insider, that the Pistons were on the list of potential teams to land Giannis Antetokounmpo in a blockbuster trade this summer. I absolutely believe if you have a player that is a top 10 player in the league, he is willing to go to your franchise, you are not winning a championship with this roster as currently constructed. I don't care if it's 3 years from now, 4 years from now, you are going to need an unmitigated superstar where you just absolutely, this is a Hall of Famer here we're talking about. Whatever the Detroit Pistons have to do to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo at 30 years old, he's going to be in the prime of his career for the next 5 years. I think you've got to do it.
I'm firmly against that, my friend.
Tell me about it.
Let's take Matt Stafford, that trade, and we'll take that and put it over in a bubble on its own. Name one other super trade in the NFL or the NBA where multiple draft picks and players have been swapped where it worked out for that team.
Well, super trades are interesting.
And it's
because
a newer
it's
thing.
Usually, it's like
10-year-old
you know,
thing.
Shaq was a free agent. You know, it's usually free agency in the NBA that does it. Super trades are relatively new, I'd say, in the NBA.
Look at the Clippers. They moved SGA and 5 first-round picks. How'd that work out for the Clippers? And what is OKC doing with all that capital now?
Let me ask you, though, because we talk about this in terms of the Detroit Lions a lot, and we always mention whether or not you're going to go for it. The Clippers, one of the historically worst organizations in sports.
Absolutely.
I do not blame them whatsoever. They went for it. They took a shot. It seemingly hasn't worked out yet because they haven't won a championship, but they've been really good for a number of years. They just haven't won a championship. Would they have probably like to redo that trade? Perhaps. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP of the league, most likely. I just think when you have an opportunity to take a shot, you take a shot. And a place like Detroit is not going to garner free agent, big time, especially in the NBA. You are not ever in Detroit going to get the big name, top 10, top 15 free agent pick that chooses Detroit. You're just not going to happen. Yeah. So the only way you could do that is through a trade. So that is another reason I would advocate.
And through the draft. But this team, their strength right now, beyond their young core, is their financial situation.
Okay.
This is a team that can extend their own guys, but can also make a huge splash and get one of the premier free agents. I don't know if you've been around, but I keep saying Miles Turner. That's my dream. Show up at his doorstep 12:01 the day the free agency opens. My issue with it, you look around the league, whether it's the NBA or the NFL, the two leagues that do these crazy, 3, 4 first-round draft picks on a player, at this point you can look at maybe Cat and Mikal Bridges might work out for the Knicks. I don't think that they're deep enough to make that run. You bring in the Frenchman to the Timberwolves, Rudy Gobert. Now they got to the Western Conference Finals. They might make it back again. I don't think that he is enough to put them over the top, and they have no assets left, nothing left. You look around at all of these trades, and the majority of these guys get stuck in the second or third round because now they don't have any money because they're flexed and maxed in terms of salary cap. They don't have future draft picks. And when I look at a Boston team, they've had mild trades, like you bring in a Derek White for not much, but everything else they have drafted for the most part. You get the
Al Horford,
very secondary deal. So to me, I think the surest way to have a very short blip on the radar, and you better cash in, but then to completely deplete your franchise for the next 5 years, it's give up 3 or 4 years worth of draft picks. We're talking about giving up Duren, because these are the specifics of the trade. Duren, Ivy, Ron Holland, and 3 first-round picks. That's 3 of our last 4 first-round picks, because we had 2 in the year that Ivy and Duren came out. And then it's our next 3 picks. We don't have one this year. That's going to the Nets. And then we've got 3 more that'll be gone. So you've got a window where a guy, he's obviously scored 30 points his last 3 straight years. He's still at his peak, but you talk about a 5-year contract. This guy's at 35. We don't know what kind of a player he's going to be at 35. To me, that trade, we're back to playing 3-on-5 ball. Our second unit was a huge strength this year. Let's see what Jaden Ivey has. You want to trade him after next year? I think his value is much higher.
Problem, though, with that, and I understand and totally hear what you're saying. I think the part where that would be ideal. Sure, let's see what Jaden Ivey has, and then let's see if we can trade. That's not the trade. It's this year or never. You know what I mean? It's like
but don't you think that there's another Giannis every summer?
I don't think a top 10 player in any particular year is up for trade.
Well, let's look at Luka. We just had Cat traded. He's a top 10, top 15-ish player. You look at, there are a lot of these deals that have gone on, and none of them have worked. And it happens.
Well, Cat still might.
Maybe. I don't think so. You could be right there. We'll see what happens today. But I look at trade after trade after trade, and the teams that gave up all of these assets, they have one.
Was Durant a trade? Durant was a trade.
To Phoenix. That did not work out well. And on the front side of that, you look at what the Nets gave up to get him originally, and that didn't work out for them either. All they basically did was gain back the stuff that they had given away, and now their team is back towards the bottom, hoping they win the lottery tonight.
Right. Pretty interesting, when you put it like that. I don't know which player will ultimately be a top 15 player other than Cade Cunningham. Because, if you look at the teams in the playoffs still, each team has at least 2 knockdown, drag-out studs.
Stars.
And I'm not just talking about good players. I'm talking about stars in the NBA. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Brunson and Cat, Halliburton and Turner, and down the line. I don't need to go through every team just off the top of my head, but you need to. And do you have that second stud? I'm talking about bona fide star on your team. I don't know if you do. I can tell you don't have it right now.
Well, we talk about year 7 for NBA players being that year where they really peak and it all comes together for them. Jaden Ivey is 23 years old.
I understand.
Jalen Duren is 22 years old. All of these young guys, we have no idea what they can unlock. We saw just about a month and maybe 2 months of Jaden Ivey where he's going 17-4-4 and shooting 40% for 3. An aberration from what he had been early on in his career. But I want to look at the Lions, and let's compare what the Lions' new regime has been doing. They haven't been cashing in and trying to get that super player. They stayed away from Myles Garrett. Everybody in Detroit wanted that. The fastest way to go from very good to bad again is giving up massive capital to get one guy. And I really hope that Trajan is going to take a page out of Dan and Brad's book and just continue to assemble assets. Keep your money smart. Re-sign your own guys that you develop. I don't know what Trajan's going to do. I hope that he stands pat and he goes and uses the money that Weaver built in for him to take this team over with and goes and gets themselves a Naz Reid, who I would prefer at Miles Turner, but I think Naz Reid, he has piston all over him. Gritty guy that can hit, shoots 38, 39% from the outside. A big guy that can defend at the rim, defend on the perimeter, and has a gritty side to him. But I just keep looking at the Lions. And I've kind of seen Brad a little frustrated with Pistons or Lions fans this offseason.
What do you think of that?
I love it because they're all telling him how to do things and what he should be doing. And all that he's done is taking a completely terrible franchise and transform it, not only by creating the culture, but this guy went 15-2 with a second-tier defense. Literally, his whole defense was gone. I'm seeing Lions fans mad that we're ranked number 6 in defense in the NFL right now, because we didn't get the edge rusher that everybody wanted. Look around at all of the last 20 years worth of Super Bowl champions. There are so few that have 2 guys that are doing double-digit sacks on the edges. It just doesn't happen. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't have that.
But does that mean just because it hasn't happened, does that just mean that you don't need it? Does that just mean if there's an opportunity to improve that spot on your defensive line that you just don't do it because it hasn't been done before?
Well, I think that you can get lucky and you can draft 2 of those guys. But when you have Aiden Hutchinson, who's right up against an extension that's going to be big, big money, but now you bring in a Myles Garrett and you give away all of this future assets, and you have to sign him for a big, big budget thing too. I think that Dan and Brad understand that if you keep these guys that you draft on those rookie deals, you can continue to fit more and more talent on a full roster instead of positioning all in a few players and then having your second 26 players just not so good. This team is built top to bottom through the draft. You look at this kid, Ahmed Hassanain. This kid's going to be great. He's going to make everybody in Detroit forget about Myles Garrett, and he's a 6th-round pick. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at these.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Listen, this cast of characters that they drafted this year.
A 6th-round pick going to make you forget about Myles Garrett.
But let's talk about Christian Mahogany. Mahogany should have been a 3rd or 4th-round pick, just like Mekhi Wingo. But he ends up slipping, and we get him in the 6th round. So when you take a look at going up to get Manu, those guys could have been the 3rd-round pick, and Manu could have been the 6th-round pick. You still get the same value. PFF rated Lions draft is the 4th most valuable draft.
There's no question. I do believe that draft, they got really good football players to keep them good for a very long time. And I believe they're going to be competing for a Super Bowl like, 4 or 5 other teams in the NFL this year, maybe a couple more than that. But nonetheless, when you have an opportunity to improve an area of weakness on your team, I think it's incumbent upon everybody to take a look at that and see where you can get better and what you would need to give up. Big news today everywhere, and you're going to see it on all the national shows tonight and whenever you're watching, Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson has come out today and said that he has had 0 contact with the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a relationship that is completely strained. He used to have communication with the coaching staff. Now the coaches don't even talk to him anymore. Trey Hendrickson, in my opinion, is not going to be playing for the Cincinnati Bengals this year. He had a strong statement against the team, against the coaching staff, against the organization. There is no player in the NFL that has more sacks in the last 2 seasons. Not Max Crosby, not Myles Garrett, not Aiden Hutchinson, not Nick Bosa, not Joey Bosa, not nobody more than Trey Hendrickson. 35 sacks. Next closest guy is 30.
Wow.
He's got 5 more sacks over the last 2 seasons than anybody else in the National Football League. And Cincinnati didn't want to pay him.
Bengals going to Bengal.
They cost themselves with Jamar Chase. They cost themselves with Joe Burrow. They cost themselves
T. Higgins.
with T. Higgins. There's no doubt about that. But again, it's like, okay, you see this player in Trey Hendrickson. He is so done with that organization. And to some extent, maybe the organization is done with him.
What would you trade for him?
Well, that's the question. That's what you have to weigh out. Who are you willing to give up to get Trey Hendrickson? Are you willing to give up re-signing Jamison Williams and Brian Branch? Are you willing to, for a lot of people the answer would be no, but that might be something that now, Jamison Williams, no, because they've got 2 wide receivers over there. I'm just throwing out
sure.
Guys that you're not going to be able to pay if you were to sign Trey Hendrickson. And the one thing about Trey Hendrickson is this. He's on a good team. He's not looking to go to a contender. He is looking to get paid.
You think?
Yes.
After being a Bengal his whole career, he doesn't want
made it to the Super Bowl.
Doesn't he want a ring?
He absolutely does, but I think first and foremost, he wants to get paid. He wants a payday. That's what I think.
So for me, when Braylon and I go back and forth on the super trades, he brings up the A.J. Brown. Now, the A.J. Brown to me is not a super trade because that was a number 18 pick that the Philadelphia Eagles had. They probably would have targeted a wide receiver, but they wanted the sure thing. Tennessee was ready to part ways. They get that 18 pick and then a 3rd rounder. If you can do something like that, where before this season starts, you give up next year's 1st round pick for a Trey Hendrickson and maybe a 3rd rounder or something like that, count me in. But when you start throwing around these trades where it's 2 first rounders or a 1st, a 2nd, and then a 3rd or a 4th as well, I just don't understand why Lions fans haven't caught on to what Dan and Brad are doing here. Those aren't the moves that these guys have made. At no point in their DNA and what we've seen have they been willing to do that. Now, they'll move up, but they're not going to give away a bunch of different assets for a guy that they've never had in their clubhouse. And I come back to this all the time that I think Lions fans underestimate the conversation that was had between the Fords and Spielman when they were starting the selection process before anybody was hired. Yes, Super Bowl was obviously a topic. But winning 10 games and be a perennial playoff team and changing the culture of the worst cultured losing franchise in the NFL, that was their number one thing. And they are absolutely unwilling to risk that culture. Look at these guys that they brought in. Ahmed Hassanein. This guy's saying that he will give his life on the field for them. You look at Tesla, he's like, I know I wanted to be in Detroit. I was so happy when I ended up there. The Tyreek Williams, he was so ecstatic to be here. The most beautiful scumbag of all time, Tate Ratledge. I mean, these guys, the characters that they brought in. Yes.
I love them all, and I totally understand what you're saying. And, outside of what happened today with Hendrickson, I think we're all comfortable with going into the season in 2025. I just want to read the quote to you because I have it earlier. This is a statement from Trey Hendrickson to ESPN. Quote, "No communication has taken place between my camp and the organization post-draft. The offers prior to the draft did not reflect the vision we shared and were promised last offseason if I continued to play at a high level. Coaches are aware of these past conversations. Rather than using collaboration to get us to the point to bring me home to the team, they, in all caps, are no longer communicating. I have been eagerly awaiting a resolution of this situation, but that's hard to do when there is no discussion and an evident lack of interest in reaching mutual goals." That's Trey Hendrickson's statement today to ESPN. And I think when you have a disgruntled player like that, somebody of that caliber, 35 sacks over the last 2 seasons. Only TJ Watt is number 2 with 30.5 sacks. Danielle Hunter, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. That's who's on that list, and Trey Hendrickson is number 1. So, again, when you have that guy out there, I do think it is incumbent upon your organization to take a look at it.
Absolutely. But, everything that you were reading about his experience with the Bengals right now, I remember that. That was what it was to be a Lions fan.
No doubt.
And bad communication, guys that didn't want to be here, and that culture's just been completely changed. To your point, Trey Hendrickson, for all intents and purposes, seems like a Dan Campbell guy.
Yeah.
I think he would assimilate and fit in here perfectly. But again, it comes down to the cost. I think that, when you were looking at it last year at the trade deadline, it would have been more money. Now at this point, the Bengals have lost a lot of leverage just by this news coming out today. So I think that it's something that Dan and Brad will circle back to, and I think that we'll see what happens. It sounds like he's not going to be in a Bengals uniform, like you said, but I don't see him coming here. Everything that I've heard, the narrative, the spin that I've heard from Brad is like, I got you one in the 6th round. I got you defensive end then. Is that okay?
Right.
Because, again, you look at the depth that they have assembled on this defensive line for the last couple of years. Yes, I know you got Marcus Davenport, an oft-injured guy, but if he can stay healthy with the guys that you've put in the middle, Tyleik Williams is one of the most productive defensive linemen in college over the last 2 years. This guy is proven. So when you put a guy in the middle like that, it's going to make your edges better.
You know where Trey Hendrickson is going to end up, right? You do know.
Kansas City.
Philadelphia.
Oh.
Howie Roseman's going to Howie Roseman's going to find a way to get him.
I hate that.
Howie Roseman, absolutely. Speaking of the Philadelphia Eagles, Anson, it was revealed earlier today that it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles Thursday, September 4th in the NFL season opener. A lot of people around here were wanting, expecting, hoping that it would be the Lions at Eagles because so many people wanted to see Lions-Eagles in the NFC Championship game a year ago. Instead, it's the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, at Philadelphia. And there was so
formerly America's team.
I agree with you. So many choices, too. You've got the L.A. Rams, the Denver Broncos, the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders. And you go with the Cowboys. The Cowboys name, does it still resonate? Does it matter?
No, they're the Cowgirls in my head at this point.
I
can't even say Cowboys. Now, they just made the trade. They bring in George Pickens to pair with CeeDee Lamb. You get a healthy Dak Prescott back. But this feels like the NFL trying to revive the interest in the Cowboys. But at the same point, the Lions have been getting a lot of national games. They've been, started 2 years ago, the first game of the season. So you can't put them in there every year.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put them in there every year.
No, like Maz says, once they got the Hall of Fame game this year, in the preseason, you knew it wasn't going to happen.
Are we going to Canton for that?
We could. Probably could if you want to.
I'd be down.
Chargers going to host the Chiefs in Week 1 in Brazil. I just don't know why they got to do that stuff. It is for the Chargers? Oh, yeah, because it'll be everybody in Kansas City. Well, the stadium in Brazil is going to be packed full of Chiefs fans and Patrick Mahomes fans anyway. But
have you seen the beaches in Brazil?
No, I don't think. Remember last year they weren't allowed to go and leave the complex?
I would not allow the players to go to those beaches because they'd never come home.
Right?
I can only imagine.
Right.
I can only imagine. The scenery has to be amazing.
Google it.
Pretty interesting. Jets host the Broncos in London in Week 6. Aaron Glenn actually was at the podium today speaking to the media, and he talked about how Dan Campbell continued, time and time again to put Aaron Glenn in positions to become a head coach, where he met with Jameson Williams every morning at 7:30. As the defensive coordinator meeting with one of the offensive guys. He had pointed that out today, and as he looks back now, Campbell was preparing Glenn all throughout to be a head coach, and that is something that is so cool, and it just raises, I think, the Dan Campbell stature even more when you just know he's taking care of his guys, and by his guys, I'm talking about his coaching staff.
And as a mentor, a great mentor, you want your disciples to be better than you and to surpass you. I got a hot take. The Chicago Bears, everybody in town thought last year that they were going to be winning their division. And it's laughable to me. But now this year, you remember when Dan Snyder put together all those free agent classes for the Washington Redskins back when they were the Redskins, and everybody's like, these guys are going to win it. When has that ever worked?
Doesn't.
And so I'm looking at Ben Johnson, the former quality control guy, that realistically I think that he lost some games for us getting too cute. You go back to when Dan Campbell took over play calling, we had one of the top offenses and he was winning games. I know that the Bears on paper are in a better position than the Jets are right now.
Sure.
But I think that after Catfish Caleb reveals himself to not be the generational quarterback yet again, I think he's the wrong guy for Ben Johnson's system. And after this year, when they don't win 10 games and all of a sudden the Chicago fans start going after Ben Johnson, start going after Catfish Caleb, you're going to look at AG and what he is as a man, as a leader of men. And it doesn't matter that on paper that the Jets aren't as good. He will get them to the playoffs faster than the Bears will get there.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm very high on Aaron Glenn in New York. My only question is about Justin Fields at quarterback. I like Justin Fields. When you stack up those quarterbacks in the AFC, I mean, he's not even in the top 10.
Well, let's talk about an opportunity missed. You can't tell me that Caleb Williams was better than Justin Fields as a Bears quarterback. You just can't. If you move that number one pick, think about what the Bears would have.
I have said that. I was steadfast in that.
So let's talk about that now again when we're talking about Giannis, when we're reflecting on the fact that we didn't get Myles Garrett.
All right, I've got my crack research team here. Have some trades I want to ask you about.
Oh, please.
Kawhi Leonard, when he went to Toronto, won a championship.
And what was that trade for?
Not sure. Okay. They won the championship.
For sure. But that was also a situation where similar to Trey Hendrickson, his welcome in San Antonio was gone. The leverage was gone.
Sure.
It wasn't the type of deal that they used for Paul George. But that is a good example.
Anthony Davis to the Lakers.
The bubble, come on.
Won a championship. They are the 2020.
Is that Sam over there providing that for you?
Yeah.
Damn flannel Sam over there.
No, it's easy.
Oh, okay.
Easy.
Easy still wants Myles Garrett.
Kevin Love, championship.
You know what? The Kevin Love one I'll give you.
Kevin Durant to Golden State.
What did they give up in that?
Not sure.
No,
that was free agent.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't be giving me names without giving me the trades.
And then the last one. Well, if you were traded to a place and you won a championship, it doesn't matter what you give up, because I would give up. If I get one Lions Super Bowl, you can give up the whole team and lose for the next 20 years.
100%.
Because I've lived through that.
100%.
So it almost negates what the trade was, because I don't even care. You got your championship after that. That's all that matters. And then the last one was Kevin Garnett. He was traded from Minnesota to the Celtics, right?
Oh, yeah, but there was nothing in that trade.
No.
And we're talking about super trades, not just trading superstars.
Right.
But we're talking about when 2 or 3 or more first-round picks along with a high-profile player are moved. The most egregious example is the 5 first-round picks and SGA for Paul George. But then there's cascading levels of that. Like, you look at the Rudy Gobert trade. You look at the Donovan Mitchell trade. If the Cavs don't win a championship with Donovan Mitchell in 2 years, they are in trouble. They've got no assets, no capital whatsoever. And again, if it doesn't work within a couple of years, there is no such thing as patience in the NBA or any leagues anymore. You don't have the patience that the bad boys had for the build throughout the 80s, drafting Joe Dumars in 86, drafting the Worm and Spider in 87, getting through 88, and yet they still kind of blew it up. They traded Adrian Dantley for Mark Aguirre. So I'm looking at these crazy big trades where, like, if the Cavs lose in this round, which they're headed towards, if they don't win it next year, they're blowing that team up, and they have to in order to get capital back.
No, I mean I understand that. I totally get what where you're coming from. I am willing to take that risk. Yeah. I am absolutely willing.
So
to
what would you give
risk.
up for Giannis?
For Giannis, I would give up 2 first-round picks. I'd give up Ron Holland. Because I think Ron Holland's going to be a superstar. I love Ron Holland.
Crash out Ron. I like Ron. He's a Detroit guy, but I don't think he's ever going to be able to put it all together.
I'd give up Ron Holland, Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris, because you got to match up some kind of money, and 2 first-round picks.
So
you've got 2 young budding stars, Duren and Holland. You've got
and only 2 picks, but what's being bandied about is 3 picks and Jaden Ivey as well. To me, that's 6 first-round picks.
Yeah, I would not. I wouldn't give up Ivey, Holland, Duren,
and 3 picks.
No, I wouldn't do that.
That is the surest way to be good for a year or two and end up back to a number 10, 11, maybe playing for the play-in. It's too much to give up. And we're not talking about giving away 27, 28-year-old players, right? These guys their average core is like 22 and a half.
Right. No, I'm totally with you. Get a little NBA. Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers with a stink bomb.
It's Darius Garland.
My God.
It's all Darius Garland.
It was 92-49.
Darius Garland
at one point
is the Jaylen Brown of that team. In my opinion, he's the 3rd best ball handler in NBA history behind Kyrie and Isaiah. And I'm not going to put him in levels, but he's that good. He is the heartbeat of that team. He is the control valve of that team. As good as Donovan Mitchell is, that team will only go as far as Darius Garland can take them. I see people all over Twitter, it's just a toe. When you have the speed and agility and cutting that he has, you take that all away with a bad toe.
Speaking of the NBA, it's been announced today that Michael Jordan will join the NBA on NBC and Peacock as a special contributor. Anson Wells, do you believe that Michael Jordan will be good, bad, or great on television?
Well, it won't matter because he'll be fascinating. I'm curious whether he'll be curating every episode the way he did his 10-episode propaganda series on Netflix.
Right.
But no, listen, we've all been clamoring for MJ. We've all been missing the GOAT. We got to watch him stalk the sidelines of the Charlotte Bobcats for a little while, but this guy, when you look at the LeBron, Kobe, Michael debate, so many of these young people never got a chance to really watch him play. Mm-hmm. And he's been out of the media aside from the 10 episode series that he curated again. So I think that it's going to be good for old fans and new fans alike. There's a lot of older fans that they've kind of been turned off by the new NBA. And I think bringing Jordan back into the fold, that kind of puts an olive branch out to those older fans. I love it, and I hate Michael Jordan.
In the NHL, the Stars beat the Jets 5-2. Man, the Jets goalie gave up 3 goals in one period in 3 games in the regular season. He has done that 3 times in 6 games in the postseason. So the Stars the Stars beat the Jets 5-2. They take a 2-1 series lead. Panthers even up their series with the Maple Leafs. They beat Toronto 2-0, and we go from there. Tonight it's the Canes hosting the Capitals and the Oilers hosting the Knights. So that is our Woodward Maz hockey
20
minute.
seconds.
You got some final thoughts for you?
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, they've never been good in my entire life. So weird you kept saying Jets. I'm thinking about New
York Jets.
Absolutely. No, I'm excited to see what happens with the lottery tonight. I really do think that it's going to be the Spurs that win it. It's going to be Dallas.
Mavericks. I guarantee you, Dallas, that's a great.
It really is. And after what happened with the trade for Luka, all the heat that they took, I could see the NBA paying the back because the NBA had a hand in that trade.
Just hope it's not the Spurs or the Sixers.
LeBron leaves Cleveland. Cleveland gets the number 1 pick in Kyrie. It just always works out like that.
They got 3 number 1 picks after he left.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Michael Jordan leaves Chicago. Oh, let's give you Derrick Rose in the number 1 pick. I mean,
they might throw the Nets a bone.
The New York Knicks. The New York Knicks.
You're such a New Yorker. I love it.
The NBA struggling. Oh, let's put Patrick Ewing in New York, our number 1 media market. Oh, yeah. Very good.
And it was after that they did the weighted lottery. So,
guys, want to thank everybody that came out here today to Edgewood Country Club, and thanks to everybody who's watching the show because we did have some technical difficulties. We didn't get going until probably like a little bit an hour late. Our tee-off for a kid again. Great charity and a great organization. We want to thank all of our partners as well here. So, Anson Wells, great job. Pete Spivak, we let Pete cook down there.
Shout out to Mad Packs
Ricky
as well.
Burns, Mad Packs, baby. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we here.
Yes. Loom,
Loom,
baby.
oh, yeah, man.
Loom. We had a little bit different show today. We don't have all our stuff, but we got Loom. We got Mad Packs. We got everybody.
We got you. We got you, bro.
Oh, yeah. All right, very good.
We don't got them here.
All right, very good, everybody. We got to get out of here. Goodbye. We'll see you tomorrow in studio.